Welcome to the ESI Africa studio, broadcasting from the East Africa Power Convention here in Nairobi. Today I am speaking with Francis Meyo, who is the research coordinator at the Innovations for Poverty Action. Welcome, Francis.
Thank you, Nicolette.
I'm not really familiar with your organization. Can you please tell us a bit about what your objectives are?
Yeah. Innovations for Poverty Action's main objective is to discover and promote programs aimed at alleviating poverty. Over the last 50 years or so, over $3 trillion have been used at programs aimed to fight poverty, and yet over 1 billion people still languish in extreme poverty. Now, our hypothesis is that very many programs are not as cost effective as they would be. And we think this is because of two reasons. One, there isn't enough evidence to support these programs, or two, when those evidence exists, people running these programs do not necessarily use them. So for IPA is running a research study with a team of economists and engineers at the University of California, Berkeley, to address energy poverty issues in Kenya. So we want to address two main questions. The first one being, what is the demand and what are the costs for connecting households to the national electricity grid? And two, what are the socioeconomic impacts of connecting these households to the national electricity grid?
That's two very, very key objectives that you are covering in your organization. So in your research, what has surprised you about investment in the energy sector?
Yes. At the onset of our research, our prior was that low electrification rates in Kenya are due to very many households being off-grid. What surprised us at the beginning was that between 2008 and 2013, Kenya's Rural Electrification Authority did a tremendous job of expanding the national grid to all public facilities in Kenya. So over 90% of all public facilities are electrified. But the households surrounding those public facilities remain unelectrified. So these households are no longer off-grid because they now have the national infrastructure, electricity infrastructure next to their homes, but they're not connected, so they're not on-grid as well. So we came up with the term undergrid. So now they're undergrid households.
That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. And this is throughout the region, or is it Kenya specific?
Our research was focused in Western Kenya, but other studies have shown that this holds true for most of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa.
President Obama from the US recently visited Kenya. What are your thoughts around the Power Africa initiative that he has put in place?
So Power Africa has focused on electricity generation and on small-scale renewable energies, and this is a great start. But I think it may not be sufficient because it's yet to address issues to deal with distributing electricity and actually making that people connect to the grid and the electricity that's being generated.
So that's not really part of his initiative, but you are providing something that is going to facilitate that connectivity.
Indeed, yes.
So looking at Kenya's last mile project, that is right up your alley. How has it been going? Is it successful? Is it the right thing for Kenya to be doing?
Yes, as I've just previously mentioned, our research suggests that a large portion of unconnected households in Kenya are actually undergrid. What this means is that they're within a very short distance to the national grid, say 200 meters of the national grid, so they can actually see a connection, they can see a transformer. The technical capacity to connect them exists, it's just that the economics or the institutional barriers that prevent them from connecting. So time is ripe, and if the last mile program will focus on these undergrid households, then I think Kenya is well on its way to achieving 70% connectivity over the next few years.
So it is achievable?
Yes.
And looking at the implementation of microgrids, do you work a lot around microgrids? Do you think it is the right sort of development, or is it the wrong track to be on?
I believe there are some areas that are off-grid that the national grid will take years, if not decades, to reach them. So microgrids are an appropriate solution for those areas. I think one thing that people should track is what happens when the national grid eventually reaches some of these areas. Will people be opting for the national electricity grid, or will they be opting for these microgrids? And I think that questions surrounding power reliability and power quality will be key in determining which of the two options they pick.
I'd like to ask a little bit about innovations.
Yes.
Does your company come up against innovations and not being able to implement them?
I beg your pardon?
Technologies.
Yes.
There's a lot of talk around smart grids.
Yes.
Is this as a problem?
So our company is focused on econ research, and we don't necessarily innovate on the engineering side. What we do is evaluate some of these innovations and programs, and if they work, we do promote them and we do try and push them to scale. And if they do not work, that is equally important for people to know.
Because we need to know what is not working.
Indeed.
Right. And on the regulatory side of things, what needs to happen to facilitate the connectivity to everybody in the region?
On the regulatory side, I can isolate one factor, and that is meter debt. And what do I mean by meter debt? In our study, we have connected hundreds of households who've been using power for close to a year, some of them, yet they've not been topping up on a regular basis as required by Kenya Power. And what this means is that they're very low consumers, right? And what I mean by meter debt is that national utility in Kenya has a standing charge that accounts for about 2/3 of the actual consumption. So some may view this as an oppressive regime that the regulator needs to address.
So in terms of the region and what you are doing in your company, what message do you have for people wanting to come into Kenya?
I think Kenya is ripe, as I said before. We have one national distributor for electricity. I believe the regulator recently licensed a private independent power producer to be able to distribute power as well. There is room for smart metering and smart targeting. I think the electricity sector is yet to leapfrog, similar to how the telecommunications sector leapfrogged over a decade ago.
This is ESI Africa speaking with Francis Meyo. Thank you for watching.